Add. Hello, welcome to Intelligence Snapshot number 1. My name is Roy. I'm from Israel and I'm an entrepreneur and life research. And today I'm hosting Rafi, who is a good friend of mine, which is living in the States. And he is leading an amazing program which called Leadership of the New Kind. Rafi is also working for the biggest companies in the States, helping them develop a great leadership. Hi, Rafi.
Hi, Roy. Happy to see you. You
Yeah,
know, I know that you are now in Israel, and I know that the situation in Israel is kind of stressed a bit, maybe more than a bit. And I'm enjoying myself here in my sunroom, sitting in New York, looking at the beautiful summer trees. Uh, but I'm really happy to see you and looking forward to this podcast.
yeah, great. Yeah. So I'm very eager to hear from you a few things. And the first one would be, what is this leadership of the new kind program? And how do we need leadership of the new kind program?
Okay, so I think the second part of the question maybe takes a bit more explanation because about the first one, Leadership of the New Kind is an experimental program. We're currently about 40 people from about 4 different countries, and that would be, the States, Canada, China, and Israel. And we're trying to create a kind of a group of people that are very well aware, conscious, and capable in leading people in a new way. As to the second part of the question, which is, why do we need leadership of the new kind? Even before we explain what does the concept mean, let me use an analogy. And in this analogy, think about all humans groupings, such as what we call sometimes teams or even families, organizations, villages, countries, nations. Let's think about them not as, just, big or small congregations of people, but let's think about them as an organism. So a team is an organism, okay?
Yeah.
A nation is an organism in much the same way that you and I are organisms, okay?
Yes.
And one of the very interesting things about organisms is if I'll ask you now, give me one type of an organism that you think is an intelligent organism. Which one would come to mind?
Maybe a company, a family.
Okay, but if I'm speaking just about a species, like which one is smarter, bacteria, shark, or human?
Of course, human.
Okay, so we'll have to go with human, even though we know that some bacteria can do some serious damage or be very beneficial for
Yes.
us. But generally speaking, we can say humans because humans are much more capable of planning, solving problems, functioning in different environments, inventions, and so forth. And that's very, very, very much to do with the fact that we have big brains, with the fact that we can think, we can form up a mind. When it comes to groupings, this is where it becomes really, really fascinating because sometimes you can have a group of very intelligent people and together the group is very stupid. I worked with groups that were composed of leading professors, and every time these leading professors came together, it was the stupidest thing. It was like kindergarten, once again. And sometimes you work with people who, as individuals, they're not the smartest, but hey, they come together and something big is happening. But this is something that most of us know. We've been in this kind of situation.
Yes.
What is really remarkable is when you think about a team or a nation as an organism, the question now is how can this organism become more intelligent, more
Yes.
capable? And here's where I'm going to say something which is a particular statement. in most cases throughout human history, people who were at the top of the chain, meaning the decision makers, those people that we refer to as leaders, really didn't want the group to be too smart. Because if the group is too smart, sometimes people in the group can have their own thoughts, and one of the thoughts may be, I don't like my leader,
Yes.
So leaders treated people as much as possible as, I don't need your brain, I need you to follow my instructions.
Yes.
Even good leaders basically wanted to create some kind of unification, some kind of cohesion, so that together we can do something much bigger as a group.
Yes.
But I want you to follow my orders so that my ideas can be actualized. Okay? By the way, this is why you can still see in some action movies, people like the big boss is saying to the other person, I don't pay you to think. And this looks like a really nice, macho, manly statement, but this comes from thousands of years of leadership.
Yes.
So far, do you see this picture? I mean,
I'm
okay?
starting.
Okay, you're starting. Okay, so let me now give you the other side of the picture. We now live in a time where for any group to function well, we need more people to bring in the thinking power so that together we can create a bigger, if you like, mind, a bigger network of brains. So it's very, very easy to see it on the business side. If I don't have my people, meaning if I'm the leader and I have people that are employees,
Yes.
I need them to think. I don't need them to just follow my orders. I need them to come up with ideas, innovations, inventions. I need them to collaborate really well so that they can utilize each other's, let's call it brain power. And this is the reality of business organization, non-for-profits, and so forth. So here's the problem, and this is really a huge problem. The human race did this kind of old-style leadership for thousands of years. So a lot of the practices, meaning the way we exercise leadership, is based in these old patterns, in habits that were formed over thousands of years of human history. Okay. For example, let me just give you an example. Okay, and by the way, if leaders continue to use these practices, problem is that they are not going to create this environment where they really bring on their people talents. But let me just give you an example. Parents and children, right? You were born as a child into a certain family. You see around you. What do parents usually do when they want their children to comply, to do stuff? Like, what do they say to children?
They will tell him that it's good for him and they want him to do that.
Okay, and if the child says, I don't want to.
You have to.
Why?
We will force you.
Exactly.
Because then we will love you.
Okay, and do you see what's happening? If the child refuses, often what the parents will do is succumb to, you have to do it. And if I mentioned earlier on this saying that you see sometimes in thrillers or in action movies, I don't pay you to think, there is another version of it in parenting, and I've seen many teachers even use it. They say to the child, when the child says, but why? They said, because I said so. Okay, that's something that is still, even though we live in a new time and many parents and many educators realize we need something new, still when things get tough, leaders go back to this, let's call it more primitive ways of exercising leadership. And here is the thing that most people don't know. When you use these old school practices, you actually block certain pathways of thinking in the brain. You activate more primitive parts of the brain. Because when I tell you, do it or else, I actually activate fear processes inside your brain, inside your add-on kind system. If I tell you do it because, same thing happens. Even if I tell you, hey, Roy, you know what? If you'll do it, I have a really nice price. I'll give you some money at the end of the day. I still go to very primitive parts of the brain, which really work by what we call generally carrot and sticks. But if I need other people around me to think, we need new practices. That's exactly what we are doing in leadership of the new kind. We have a certain, set of practices or principle rather, and certain practices that come to replace the old practices. That's in a very short way. How does it sound so far?
Sounds good, but theory and practice is two different things. I used to manage many people in my entrepreneur stuff, and I was trying to give freedom and support, but it was quite rare to find people who really activate some leadership. Most of the employees were into narrow-minded, to do as less as possible and things like that. So it sounds like a good dream, but I'm really asking myself, how can it work in the real life,
Okay, that's a good point, and this is just coming to show that many people, even if they are not leaders, or certainly if they are not leaders, they are still responding to the old tools. Okay, the game is there from whatever side you look at it. So even I'm an employee and you are not coming and forcing me, maybe I won't do my job. There is, however, an exception, and I can tell you, I can share with you that people there is in militaries something which is called elite units, special ops. You probably heard of the Navy SEALs in the United States, okay? And you come from Israel, there are certain elite units in the military. What is really remarkable about these elite units is that you don't need to threaten anybody. You can trust that people around you will do their job. So this is why often when you walk into an elite unit environment and it's not a combat situation, you will see that you can hardly tell who is the commander. There is this environment that we can all trust each other because we know what each other is doing, and we can trust that people are motivated for the right reason. So the question now becomes, what is it about this elite unit? Is it just because we filtered the individuals, meaning we did some kind of screening, pre-screenings that is so good that I really, really chose just the best people, okay?
Yeah.
Or is there some kind of, let's call it secret sauce, something that you blend into the blend, and that secret sauce can help you to create almost or bring almost any group of people. And I'm saying almost because I have, to be honest, my share of failures as well. Roy didn't work with anybody. But if there is such a secret sauce, maybe we can attempt to bring many more of these people to this level of mutual trust and really kind of not having any more to police individuals. And that's exactly, one of the, and I'm not going to explain it too much, but one of the things that we use in leadership of the new kind is a particular approach that's called creating good working agreements. Idea is to get a much higher level of commitment from each other, but these agreements need to be done in a particular way so that when we commit to each other, we can trust that it's really going to be there when we need it. So I take what you are saying, but I'm saying there are other realities.
Okay? Yeah. And I feel like getting into agreement needs some kind of trust that being developed between people in order to agree things and to respect it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anybody who wants to become leaders of people, if you think that it's going to happen over in an hour, no, it's not going to happen in a very short amount of time. But it's really remarkable to see that you can do it relatively in a short amount of time. So it's not like people are going to trust you fully with their lives based on experience of a few hours, but it's very much about the way you speak, the way you talk, and I think there is a lot of um, kind of not enough education about the power of how we communicate as leaders. I mean, I told you once a story, and if it's okay with you, I'll repeat it here.
Yeah.
That I read in Scientific American about 20 years ago, and to me it was really kind of very inspiring because I tried to use it and it actually worked. And the story is about a certain restaurant where um, the owner of the restaurant, it was in Chicago, that particular restaurant. The owner of the restaurant started to see at some point that people who reserve a table, and this restaurant really thrived by patrons reserving a table and keeping that commitment of if I reserve the table, I'm going to show up. And he noticed that there is a growing trend of patrons, reserving the table, but failing to show up and also not notifying in advance. And at some point, when he ran the numbers, he realized that about 30% of the reservation ended up being what he called no show, no call. And he really just tried to improve the situation by asking them, the person who used to, the reception person who used to be on the phone calls, to just make sure that at each reservation process on the phone, that they should say a very simple sentence, which was, please let us know if you cannot make it. And he thought if we just, kind of tell people, surely that, it will improve the situation. And he was really disappointed to see a few weeks later that nothing much worked. What was really amazing is that he consulted with somebody and then he tried a new approach, a new sentence. And sometimes I use this particular story and I kind of pause at this point of the story and I said to people, what do you think is the new sentence? Because I tell them that new sentence caused the no show, no call to drop down from 30% down to 10.
Wow.
Really nice improvement. And I'm saying to people, so what do you think is the new sentence? Now, I can tell you that more than half the people say, take a credit card, so give us a credit card, which many restaurants do use, give us a credit card and we'll charge you if you don't show up. And some people say, give an explanation, which is a very good idea, because when you give an explanation, people may understand the reason. Very rarely do people actually discover what was the actual new sentence that brought this dramatic improvement, And the new sentence was simply turning this into a question. So really the receptionist on the phone, instead of telling to the other person, please let me know if, let us know if you can't make it, she started to say to the other person, by the way, will you please let us know if you cannot make it on time? And that caused the other person on the other side of the line to always say yes, or sure, of course, absolutely. Just that small ceremony of asking a question and getting the yes is brilliant because that caused a commitment. And again, what most people don't realize is that different type of communication activates different pathways in the brain. It activates the endocrine system in a different way, which is why it is so simple, yet so very impressive. Now, this is one thing. Imagine that we can do different things, not just that thing. So leadership of the new kind absolutely looks for ways, not as tricks, not as manipulations, really not, but as bringing our people, meaning the participants, into a point where they can, learn new ways of communicating with people, but also, not less important, work on developing their natural charisma. Because leaders also need to have certain presence, need to have certain, I call it leadership presence. They need to have certain natural charisma, and there is a very, very big, and maybe we should do one podcast just about what natural charisma means, because it's not what usually people think about charisma. So how did we come to speak even about this story, Roy? I don't remember exactly, but yeah, it started all with you telling me, well, I try to be nice, I try to give freedom, people didn't take it. And I'm saying, okay, but there are ways that we can communicate with people and encouraging them to develop their commitment and so forth. And you said rightly, it depends on trust. So the journey of trust is about, let's create mutual commitment that's not based on the old, notion of carrot and sticks,
Wow, that really inspired me. I feel like first it moved me to try it. And I felt like in order really to get into the domain of leadership, you need to master yourself in asking questions. And maybe not just people, ask yourself questions and try to be maybe a master of starting processes and not cutting things as, orders or asking people to obey and things like that, and creating some kind of a platform which things can work together.
This is absolutely true. This is brilliant, what you just said, because asking question is really very important. And you said also something which kind of caught my attention. That's to do with asking questions, not just about asking other people, but about asking yourself. And if I may, can I say something about self-leadership?
Yes, that's my second question, Sia.
Okay.
I can ask it if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll take that. How does it all apply, if at all, to self-leadership?
Okay. Now, you remember the example we used earlier about how a team is an organism?
Yes.
Okay. Well, now, when it comes to self-leadership, there is no doubt that I'm an organism. You are an organism, right? My cat is an organism, and so forth.
I'm not sure about myself, but yes.
Okay. Well, at least biologists will say you are, unless you are something.
I feel most of the time that I'm an alien, not an organism, but yeah.
Okay. Well, also aliens, it's likely.
Maybe,
in the form of organisms. But here is the thing. As an organism, it's now, I can say, well, I'm a one thing, and of course I'm not, because I'm composed of different parts and different things. And here is the fascinating stuff. About 99.9% of my daily decisions are really not done by me. They are done by other parts of the system, not by me. I'm not making a decision. Now, I can use, but it's very easy to say about the basic needs, and how I use the language I need to. So, for example, I can tell you, I need to go to the bathroom now. Well, it's really not. I don't need to go to the bathroom. My bladder needs to go to the bathroom. But we are too connected. I cannot send my bladder to the bathroom and still stay here and speak with you. But when the need to go to the bathroom comes up, it's not me making the decision. Something inside me that measures the pressures, give me the signal, hey, it's about time to go there. Same goes with food. When a person says, I feel like, it's not them consciously making a decision. Something in them makes the decision. But it's remarkably so about so many things in life. When another person catches my attention, it's not because I analyze them and I decided I need to pay attention. No. Something happened and something in my system. It could be my emotions, it could be my brain, it could be all kinds of systems, okay, that feel something from that particular individual, and I feel and I say to myself, I need to give them some attention. Now, why is it so very important? Because there is something that it will take me a while to explain, but I'm not going to. There is something which is called, in neuroscience, RP, or readiness potential.
How?
Readiness potential, RP.
Okay.
okay? And the interesting thing about it is that it's a phenomenon that's known to neuroscience for about 60 years now, and nobody fully understands it. It started all when they tried to see what is the gap between me deciding, let's say I want to pick up a glass of water, and then other parts of the brain, primarily the motor cortex now, or the premotor cortex, now becoming ignited and you know, kind of sending the electrical signals to the hand, to the muscles, pick up the glass. And so they just wanted to stay the gap. What they discovered, however, was astonishing. What they discovered is that they don't see a signal of awareness and then the motor cortex being active. What they see is different. First, the motor cortex becomes active, and about a half a second later to sometimes a full second later is the awareness there.
Wow.
Do you feel? Which means that, and this is really what many philosophers are using as an evidence to claim there is no free will. There is no free will. And if you don't believe me, Google, okay? And if you are one of these younger people, well, go on TikTok. I'm sure somebody on TikTok already explored, readiness potential. But the key is that means that my relationship between me, Rafi, that's the conscious me, and different parts of the system should be viewed as leadership relationship. And as a leader, I should be very aware to what I communicate to my system in terms of requests, needs, what I needed to do, because when the moment comes and my system will react to something, it will react according to the education I gave it or I never did, if you follow.
Yes.
So for example, people react differently to difficulties or to, let's say that I'm going and I see that there is an optional possible confrontation. Some people run away. They avoid it. Some people like the competition and they jump into it, okay? All of these things, as grown up, we never made the decision to do. Our system responds because of where it grew up in, because of all kinds of things internally. Now the question is, can I ask my system as a leader and make an agreement that next time that it happens, we are going to react differently?
Wow.
And I claim, yes, I can. I can speak with my system. I can direct it because I know that in the real moment of truth, it won't be my call. Something in me will respond to it automatically. For example, can I tell you something personal about yourself?
Yes.
You know that you are an entrepreneur. I mean, you've been to China. I met you there twice.
Yes.
Before COVID and so on. You are in Israel. You started businesses. You closed businesses. You are restarting businesses. You're consulting other people about it. That's great. What I noticed is that you, like other entrepreneurs that I met, respond differently to the word problem. Many people, most people, if you say to them, hey, listen, I have a problem, they go, oh, I'm so sorry, what is it? How can I help? Most people are good people. They want to help, right? Entrepreneurs actually light up when they hear a problem. Like somebody comes to you and say, I have a problem. You say, really? What's that? Not because you hate them, but because the word problem activates in you a totally different circuitry. For you, the word problem is there is an opportunity here.
Yes.
Do you follow? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
That is something that is true to you, okay?
Yes.
The thing is that I can speak with my system and say, hey, how about let's now reinterpret the word problem. So whenever we hear now the word problem, let's think about what's the opportunity. That's going to be a life-changing situation for me, or life-changing opportunity rather, if I actually take it up. So what I'm saying is, Let me just give you one example about the equivalency between leadership of the new kind, meaning I'm a leader to others, and leadership of a new kind, I'm a leader to myself. The overarching principle of leadership of the new kind is commitment to development. We say it's the natural state of humans and human groupings that they should develop. There is a lot to be said about it, but I want to go to the next stage. The next stage is a series of 5 principles that are behavioral principles.
Yes.
The first of those 5 is, as a leader, I do not use fear tactics, threats, or even promise of rewards to motivate people. That is when I work with other people. How does it translate to me? Leadership of self, that is. Simply, I want to motivate myself based on reason, and I need to do or embark on a journey to reduce fear in my system. And that's really very, very important, because as long as I operate too much on fear, and by the way, there is nothing wrong with fear itself. Fear is a friend, so there are natural fears. But if I discover that I have certain unnatural fears from things that I shouldn't really be afraid of, I should do something about it, okay? One of the principles is lead by creating agreements, okay? That's a second one. So I said something about agreements with others to get a much higher level of commitment, but I need to make internal agreements. So there is these equivalencies, which are fascinating. But I'm telling you, viewing one's life journey as a journey of self-leadership is going to totally change how we deal with ourselves, how we talk to ourselves. Leadership of the new kind is needed also on the individual level.
Yeah, wow, it sounds really deep, like it's getting us into a deep water, and it gives us really a taste of making another one. So that was our first intelligence snapshot, and I would like to thank Rafi.
Oh, thank you very much, Roy. That was lovely. That was great.
We would love to hear more about that, because it feels like it's a huge territory, and it's fascinating really to explore it with you. So this is our first part, and it's going to be a second part. So
Good to me.
Thank you very much, and see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.